Today, we are working on this 1998 GMC Sonoma. In this video, we are going to be changing the front and rear shocks. Here are the shocks that we will be using. So while recording this video, I realized I made a mistake. This is actually the rear shock, the longer box, which is the 32-186. And well, let me pull it out so you can see it. Rear, and then the shorter box is actually the front shock. You can see you got your garments that go through like that, and the front shock is actually a 32-300. Let's carry on with the video. So we are shooting two videos at once, so this will be a repeat clip, but for both videos we're going to do one side at a time. So I'm going to start with the driver's side. As you can see, we have it on jack stands. We got both front and rear wheel up off the ground, and I think we'll be able to do everything with the steering gearbox on this side, and we'll be able to change the shocks for sure this way. So starting with the front, so far I've only needed a 14mm socket, and I'm using this electric 3/8 ratchet, but you could just use a normal ratchet, and that's going the wrong way. But this one's actually one of the easier ones I've had to deal with. Usually they want to twist the whole shock shaft, and sometimes you have to hold the top here with like some vice grips and then use a wrench or a gear wrench and work it off, but that was easy. So now you can see that's off, and now we need to get on the bottom of our lower control arm and take off the bottom. Okay, we got our front shock off. Let me show you what I used. Fairly simple. It's two bolts that is being held right here. They look like this. I used a swivel socket, 13mm, and then again, these one of the easier ones that ever came out for me. Sometimes it takes some ugga-duggas, but these aren't nearly as problematic as the top one. One thing that happened to me, and I knew something was wrong, was you're supposed to have two rubber garments, and this one stayed stuck on the inside of the frame that you can barely see, and sticking my finger through the top here, I was able to push it out, and it almost hit me in the face. But don't make the mistake of leaving one up there and when you install your new shock of having a double garment. So let's get ready to install the new one. Before we do all the leg work of putting a new one in, I want to compare just to make sure our lengths and everything are the same. As you can see, here's our new rubber garment. You can see how squished down these are, but that's normal. No biggie. Looks like we got all the appropriate hardware. Everything looks right. So this is a personal preference of mine, but I like to anti-seize my bolts before putting them in. And also something I've noticed with rubber garments, they sometimes get squeaky over time. So I just put some dielectric grease on those, just a little coating, and now we can get ready to install. So the good news is the top nut was the same. It was a 14mm. I used a 3/8 electric ratchet to run it down semi-tight, and then I final torqued it with our just regular ratchet, just enough to be pretty snug. No torque wrench, just good and tight. Same thing for the bottom. Something to pay attention to is that it was already pre-angled, so you need to make sure you get the same downward slope angle, and that ain't nothing but just rotating the shock 180 clockwise, counterclockwise, just to match the same angle as your control arm. And then the same thing, I used the #1 setting on my 3/8 stubby, and then final torqued it with a ratchet, because I don't trust really impacts, because if you have low power it can sound tight and it really ain't giving out any torque. So always final torque with some type of hand tool. So everything is good now. That was super easy. Let's move to the rear. So we're on the driver's side rear. This is our shock here. I have a 13/16 socket that fits pretty good. I'm pretty sure that's probably like a 21mm in metric, which is what it's supposed to be. I know the 19 didn't fit, so most likely going to be a 21. And then we have 2 bolts up here. I will be using my 13mm swivel socket. I know I can get the inside bolt easy, like that. Oh, my hand's all in the way. But the inside one, I can't even see it from this angle, or the outside one, the one on the tire side. So I'll keep y'all updated how I get that one off. The 3/8 stubby on its max torque setting, I guess, which is that round thing. It knocked this off easy. I went ahead and knocked off the other side while I was here. The 13mm swivel socket got the outside bolt easy, but the bracket that's in between the shock was too tight for the 3/8 extension initially. I could probably get it in there now, but you see how I don't have much wiggle room. I have good room against the shock, but not good room against this. So I'm using my 1/4 inch ratchet setup, which did take a good bit of torque to loosen it. I probably should have used a 1/4 inch to a 3/8 adapter so I can use my 3/8 ratchet. So because it had a little bitty stubby ratchets, a lot of torque on the teeth, and also it hurt my hand. But I did get it loose, and now that's coming out, we should be able to drop this shock pretty easy. As suspected, I thought this was painted red because 2 previous owners ago, I assume, painted everything red. Oh yeah, that is the OEM shock brand. But let me show you how to get this out, because this was a complete pain. So I couldn't get the shock to slide off this way without hitting something in this area. Maybe it's hitting our sway bar. So what I had to do was completely decompress the shock down. It was hard, like 2 hands body weight, and get it outside this bracket. Then it was able to extend up here with it in this slot here, right here. Then I was able to slide this off this stud, and then it dropped down easy. But yeah, so I could not, with it in its factory location, this box, pretty sure it's hitting this sway bar, so I had to depress it down and then drop it in over there. So let's get ready to put our new shock in. So the new shock is installed, but let's talk about something with the old one. Something I noticed is the new one wasn't nearly as tight against that bracket, because this one has like this cover on it that is real thick. So now let's go in our truck and I'll show you. First, let's talk about installation. Leave this strap on until you get everything in place, because this is what keeps the shock compressed. It was a little bit of a pain to get in. I had to reverse what I did. Although the strap was on, I had to put it up in this cubby, you know, in here like before, and then I had to kind of work it in, and then start and install this bottom one first. And then once I got that in with some finagling, then I was able to take the strap off of the edge here and then kind of help the shock up and it in place. And then as you can see, we got a lot more room right here now that that cover that I was just showing you ain't there. And I was able to use a 3/8 extension with the 13mm swivel to get this inside bolt here. So 13mm swivel on both sides now was accessible. Torqued everything by hand, and now I'm going to take some dikes or diagonal cutters and cut this strap off. And then the shock is done. So we're going to end this video off here. I'll do the other side off camera. I hope this helps somebody. It was fairly easy. I mean, I probably got 45 minutes, and some of that was recording for y'all. I did find that the rear was harder than the front, and that's usually the opposite in my experience with shocks. But please leave a comment. Let me know, did I mess up, or is there a better way? Is there a better shock? If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. I appreciate y'all. On to the next one.